Camilla's move was cold, calculated. And when Kate found out what she'd done to Charlotte, her own daughter, something inside her finally snapped. She didn't yell. She didn't make a scene. That's not how Kate works. But palace staff said they'd never seen her like this before, because it wasn't just a dress, or a photo, or a title. It was everything. Everything Diana would have wanted her granddaughter to inherit. Every memory, every symbol, every last thread of what made Charlotte the living echo of her late grandmother. And Camilla took it all. She'll get nothing. That's the phrase that's been making the rounds behind closed doors. And when Kate heard it, she didn't cry. She acted. Because Camilla may be queen now, but Kate is the mother of the future queen. And Charlotte? Charlotte's not just a little girl in the background. She's the granddaughter of Diana, and Kate will never let her be erased. So how did it come to this? How did a quiet, polite rift turn into a battle over inheritance, image, and legacy? And why does it feel like we're watching history repeat itself? Only this time, it's not Diana fighting the firm. It's Kate, and she's not backing down. At a small event, one that barely made headlines, Camilla made a comment. It was offhand, casual, meant to go unnoticed. But to someone trained to read between the lines, it was loaded. She was speaking to a longtime friend, chatting about legacy and moving forward with a more streamlined monarchy. Innocent phrases to the average ear. But the tone? The emphasis? Chilling. When that conversation was quietly relayed to Kate later, one detail stuck out. Charlotte's name never came up. Not once. But Camilla's grandchildren? Oh, they were front and center in the conversation. Talk of their future, their place, what they'd represent. Charlotte, the daughter of a future king and the granddaughter of a woman who changed the monarchy forever, had been entirely omitted. Kate was told it wasn't an oversight. It was deliberate. Camilla was drawing boundaries. And Charlotte? She was on the wrong side of them. That's when Kate started looking closer. And what she found confirmed her worst fear. This wasn't the first time. Over the past year, there had been subtle changes. Charlotte being left out of specific family events. Her name quietly removed from certain behind-the-scenes discussions about the royal jewelry collection. Fewer appearances with Camilla. Less visibility in palace-approved press materials. To the public, Charlotte was still smiling in photos, still doing her royal duty, but internally, she was being sidelined. And when Kate asked directly about a piece from Diana's collection, one she'd always believed would go to Charlotte, she was met with silence. Not from Charles, not from the royal collection staff, but from Camilla. And that silence said everything. Kate didn't explode. She didn't call the press. She didn't leak a thing. She just made a decision. She would not stay silent if Camilla kept crossing the line. Because one thing had become painfully clear. Camilla wasn't just rewriting the royal script. She was erasing the parts she didn't like. And Charlotte's chapter was next in line to be torn out. From the outside, Camilla's vision seems simple enough. She's spoken often about her desire for a lighter, more accessible monarchy. One that feels less rigid, less ceremonial, and more in tune with the public. But behind palace walls, some insiders say that so-called modernization is really a smokescreen, a rebrand, one with one very clear goal, to shift the spotlight toward Camilla's own bloodline. Sources within the palace say that Camilla has slowly begun redefining who counts as the core royal family. She doesn't have official power over titles or the line of succession, but she does have something almost as influential, proximity to the king. And with Charles increasingly leaning on her for counsel, her preferences are turning into policy. According to one former aide, Camilla doesn't shout, she doesn't demand, but she makes it clear who matters and who doesn't. And in her world, it seems Charlotte doesn't. The shift has been most apparent in matters of inheritance. Royal heirlooms, jewelry, portraits, things the public might never see, but that speak volumes within the family. Historically, those items pass based on tradition and emotion. Diana's jewelry went to William and Harry. Elizabeth's collection was carefully divided. And while the official line has always been that everything is shared, the unspoken reality is different. Camilla, reportedly, has been redirecting certain items to her grandchildren. Family friends say she's positioning her legacy through them, not through the Windsor line. And where does that leave Charlotte? In limbo, not officially excluded, but quietly overlooked, set aside, forgotten. Kate has noticed, so have others. One source even described a private moment between Kate and Camilla. Tense, polite, but icy, where Kate asked if Charlotte might one day wear a specific tiara that once belonged to Diana. Camilla's reply? A smile, and then a subject change. No commitment, no clarification, just dismissal. And that's when Kate knew. This wasn't an accident. This was a plan. And if Kate didn't speak up, Charlotte would be reduced to a footnote in her own family's story. On paper, Charlotte's place in the royal line of succession is secure. As the daughter of Prince William and Princess Catherine, she stands third in line to the throne, after her older brother George and before her younger brother Louis. And legally, nothing Camilla does can change that. But behind palace doors, royalty isn't just about titles. It's about status, symbolism, what's worn, what's inherited, and more importantly, who's remembered. And that's where Camilla's influence becomes harder to track, and even harder to fight. Because while Charlotte might be in line for the throne, she's quietly being written out of the family's deeper legacy. How? It starts with the jewelry. For decades, the royal family's jewels have served as more than just accessories. They are silent signals of status and legacy, passed down through generations with great care. Diana's iconic sapphire engagement ring, for example, now sits proudly on Kate's hand. The late Queen's brooches still appear on Camilla's lapel. And when Charlotte was born, many believed she would one day inherit pieces that once belonged to her grandmother Diana, perhaps even her namesake tiara. But now that future is in question. Because according to palace insiders, Camilla has begun rearranging the internal map of who gets what. Not publicly, not officially, but through subtle suggestions, private meetings, and carefully worded comments to the Royal Collection's trustees, Camilla has reportedly made her preferences known. She wants her own grandchildren to carry certain pieces forward. Not William and Kate's children. Not Charlotte. One former staffer put it bluntly, there's no list, no statement, just quiet decisions. And when the time comes, Charlotte will simply be left off it. It's not just about the jewels either. There are portraits, letters, heirlooms, and honors that belong to Diana's memory. Items the public will never see, but which carry tremendous emotional weight for the family. And more, Camilla is said to be redirecting those pieces away from Charlotte and toward her own lineage. Kate had been under the impression, based on private conversations with Charles over the years, that certain pieces were being held for Charlotte. Not because of favoritism, but because of symbolism. Because Charlotte was Diana's granddaughter, the only one. There was one specific item, a pearl and diamond tiara often associated with Diana, that Kate was quietly told would one day go to Charlotte. It wasn't written down. It wasn't formal, but it was a promise. And recently, that tiara was mentioned again, only this time, in a conversation involving Camilla's eldest granddaughter. Kate wasn't there, but she heard about it. And when she asked for clarification, no one could give her a straight answer. Not the wardrobe team, not the curators, not even Charles. It was gone. Not physically, but in spirit, in intention, in legacy. It had been taken away. Just like that. And that was the moment Kate realized the truth. Camilla wasn't just planning a new monarchy. She was rewriting its past and its future. And Charlotte, the granddaughter of Diana Spencer, wasn't part of it. There are promises you make in public, and then there are the ones you make in private. And before Diana died, Charles made a few of those private promises about their sons, their future, and what Diana hoped would come next. She didn't want revenge. She didn't want control. What she wanted desperately was for her boys to be safe, protected, seen. And when the time came, for their children to be embraced by the monarchy, not manipulated by it. Those close to Diana have said for years that she always worried about legacy, about who would speak for her when she couldn't. and about what would happen if the royal system tried to erase her again. That's why, after her passing, so much care was taken with the way her memory lived on. Her jewels, her letters, even her handwriting. It was sacred. For years, Charles seemed to honor that. Or at least, he let Diana's presence remain, through the boys, through public tributes, and through symbolic gestures like supporting Kate's adoption of Diana's style and values. And yet now, with Camilla beside him, those gestures are fading. Some say it's unintentional, that Charles is simply focused on maintaining stability and letting Camilla lead where she can. But to Kate, it's personal. Continued in next message due to length limit. Absolutely. Here's the final portion of your full script continued seamlessly, because she remembers the things Charles said in private. Early in her marriage to William, during long walks at Balmoral, quiet moments when he spoke of Diana's strength and how proud she'd be of her grandchildren. He said Charlotte reminded him of Diana's grace. He said she would carry her name with dignity. But now, Charles avoids the topic. And when Kate tries to bring it up, he deflects. The breaking point came during a family gathering earlier this year, one of the more exclusive, untelevised events. There were murmurs that Camilla had quietly changed a detail in the lineup of inheritance again. This time, regarding a series of personal letters and items belonging to the late Queen Mother. Kate approached Charles. Calmly, privately. She didn't accuse. She just asked, "What happened to the promises you made to Diana?" And according to someone familiar with the conversation, Charles looked stricken. He told her times had changed, that things weren't so simple anymore, that the monarchy had to move forward. He didn't say no, but he didn't say yes. And that silence, that cowardice, was worse. When Kate returned to her rooms that evening, staff noticed she didn't speak. She didn't eat. She sat in quiet fury. Because in that moment, she realized something Diana had once known too well. When the royal family wants you quiet, they won't silence you. They'll erase you. But Kate isn't Diana. And Charlotte isn't going to be erased. Kate may be soft-spoken. She may follow protocol. But she's also a mother. And a mother does not sit by while her daughter is sidelined. Especially not in Diana's name. So the next day, Kate began taking steps. Nothing overt. No press leaks. No dramatic speeches. But those close to her say she's already shifting the narrative, placing Charlotte more prominently in public life, aligning with journalists who remember Diana's legacy, and building quiet alliances inside the palace. This isn't a war of words. It's a war of images, of lineage, of legacy. And Camilla may think she's winning behind the scenes, but she may have just underestimated the one person in this family who knows exactly what it means to fight quietly and win. Kate is no longer playing defense. She's preparing to write the story herself. And this time, Charlotte will not be forgotten. Charlotte is only a child. But in the royal family, no child is ever just a child. From the moment she was born, she was already a symbol of modern monarchy, of change, of balance. As the first female royal to retain her place in the line of succession despite having a younger brother, Charlotte quietly marked a historic shift. One that women like Diana never lived to see. But symbols are fragile. And in the hands of those with power, they can be elevated or erased. Until recently, Charlotte had been allowed to shine in her own quiet way, attending major royal events with dignity beyond her years, comforting Prince George on the balcony at Trooping the Color, matching her mother's poise during solemn occasions like Queen Elizabeth II's funeral. The public saw her and admired her, many saying she carried both her mother's elegance and her grandmother Diana's soulful eyes. But within the palace, the tone has shifted. Once spoken of as a potential princess royal in the future, a title traditionally given to the eldest daughter of a monarch, Charlotte is now being subtly diminished in internal discussions, left off agendas, left out of ceremonial plans. Her name whispered less and less when conversations turned to heritage, honor, and tradition. And perhaps worst of all, she's reportedly no longer being considered for certain heirloom pieces that once seemed destined for her. To the public, it's invisible. But to Charlotte, children sense more than we realize. There have already been rumors, unconfirmed, but persistent, that Charlotte asked Kate why she wasn't allowed to wear the pretty one when it came to a brooch selection for a family portrait, that she noticed other cousins being praised more, that she felt overlooked. And Kate, she knew she couldn't answer without lying, because the truth is, it's not about what Charlotte has done. It's about who doesn't want her to matter. Camilla, for all her charm in public, reportedly has little interest in nurturing the next generation of Diana's legacy. And to her, Charlotte is Diana's living echo, graceful, beloved, and impossible to ignore. So the fewer tiaras Charlotte wears, the fewer portraits she's featured in, the fewer promises made about her future, the better, at least for Camilla. And that's the heartbreak, not just the jewels or the titles, but the quiet erosion of a little girl's place in a family that claims to value tradition. Kate sees it, she's felt it, and it's why she's now stepping into a role Diana once tried and failed to hold: protector, defender, warrior for her child. Because if Kate doesn't push back now, who will? Kate has always been measured, tactful, trained in the subtle art of royal diplomacy. But there's a reason palace staff are saying she's changed. Not in public, not where cameras can see, but behind closed doors, Kate is recalibrating. Because she knows now that being silent doesn't protect her daughter, it enables the people trying to erase her. And so, without making a scene, Kate has begun laying the groundwork for what some are calling a legacy campaign. The goal isn't to spark scandal, it's to recenter Charlotte, quietly, powerfully, and permanently. One of the first steps, reclaiming visibility. Over the past few months, royal watchers have noticed that Charlotte's presence has increased subtly in press materials. More photos, more references to her resemblance to Diana, more quotes from Kate about what Charlotte likes, how she acts, and what kind of girl she's becoming. Every interview, every image, every small quote, it's part of the strategy. Kate isn't just being a proud mother. She's building Charlotte's public identity before others can redefine it. Next comes the wardrobe. Fashion has always been a silent weapon in the royal arsenal. And recently, Charlotte has been seen wearing subtle nods to Diana's past style. Pale blue coats, Peter Pan collars, even a small clutch at a formal event, mimicking the same poses Diana once struck with William in tow. Coincidence? Not a chance. These signals are for the public and for the palace. Kate is reminding everyone, this child matters. She is Diana's legacy, and she won't be brushed aside. Behind the scenes, Kate is also strengthening her internal alliances, with curators, with protocol officers, even with select members of the press who have long championed her role. She knows she can't go after Camilla directly. That would risk the very stability Diana once shattered. But she doesn't have to fight Camilla head-on to win. All she has to do is make Charlotte beloved, visible, cherished, so that any attempt to sideline her becomes a public relations nightmare. And there's one more thing Kate is doing, something deeply personal. She's been writing. According to royal insiders, Kate has been drafting personal reflections, private letters, possibly even a manuscript that details her journey, her frustrations, and her hopes for Charlotte's future. Not for publication, not yet, but for the record, so that if anything happens, if the family once again chooses power over protection, the truth won't be buried with her silence. Kate has learned from Diana's mistakes, and she's learned from the firm's playbook. She knows that in this world, you win by being quiet but undeniable. And Charlotte? She will not be denied. Camilla may hold the crown, but Kate holds the heart of the public. And when it comes to her daughter, she will not be passive. She will not be erased. And she will not forget. Because Charlotte isn't just a name in a line of succession. She's the living thread of a woman the world still mourns. And if Camilla thought she could quietly rewrite the story, she's about to learn what happens when a mother picks up the pen. This time, Diana's granddaughter won't be cut out. She'll rise. For more of the latest news, check out this video.